All right. We're taping this at 11:10 or 8:10, depending on which host you're talking to, on Labor Day, September 6th. Happy Labor Day, boys. I forgot to say that before.
Happy Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day, everybody.
We got Brad Cummings. We've got Chad Cummings, the brothers Cummings together. And then we have me, Ben Super. And we're going to be talking about the
Superman.
Ravens. Yeah, absolutely. We need like cool nicknames. You know what I mean? And we actually need a name for this pod too. Nevermore Podcast is taken up. So we got to figure something out for that. But we're here September 6th. We're doing the Ravens preseason wrap up. We are mainly just going to talk about offense and defense, and we're going to see how this goes. What did you guys take away from the preseason? Like, what were the big things what were some of the big storylines that you took away?
Besides our number one pick getting injured and out 4 weeks, I mean,
yeah, I know.
That was a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big
looking
deal.
Looking forward to maybe the Ravens actually making a good choice when it comes to a wide receiver, and the man goes down for the first 4 weeks.
Yeah,
so that's kind of nervous.
Yeah,
J.J. Dobbins going down.
Yeah, and it's tough because, with Rashad Bateman, I think there's a lot of hope riding high on this franchise to get a wide receiver that is the right wide receiver. When we went on the run in 2013, Anquan Bolden was the guy making crazy catches in the end zone, and we haven't had that guy, I think, in a really long time. And seeing Rashad Bateman go down for 4 weeks, I agree, man. It's just kind of, I just hope that this isn't something that lingers into the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had some other good talent throughout the preseason that I saw. But, yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, we did have, after Anquan, we had Steve Smith, picked him up from Carolina. He was a monster for us. But, yeah, we missed out, man. That's really what it is. Down the road, we just missed out. We talked about it, a couple of days ago, where Marquise Brown was taking over some big name receivers. You know what I'm saying? It's just something. Man. DJ Metcalf, AJ Brown, just 2 of them. But it's not the first year it's happened. Like, I remember we took Hurst one spot before Atlanta ended up taking Ridley. You know what I mean? Like, these are it's not the first time that it's happened in the past couple of years, but we've really missed out on some big name people. And I'm not giving up on Bateman. I mean, it just sucks that he's hurt for the first couple games, but we'll see. Hopefully he could be that guy. We picked him up to be our number 1, so.
Yeah, I think to piggyback on that, the biggest preseason headline for me is that we invested so much into our offense with changing receivers and getting pass catchers for Lamar, but they didn't get to build any continuity at all this preseason, with Lamar missing the first 10 days with COVID. And then when he gets back, Bateman gets hurt, Sammy Watkins gets hurt, Hollywood gets hurt. So there's only been a few days where Lamar has actually got to practice with his full set of receivers.
Yeah.
So that's going to be...
If you're tweaking an offense, that's so important. I'm with you. I think that... I don't know. I feel like the receiving core, I look at it on paper and I'm like, man, all these guys need reps with Lamar. All of them do. And I know that we don't have a guy like Julio Jones who's, been there, done that for 10 years at a high level. Maybe you go into a season with Julio Jones and you think like, oh, well, he's Julio Jones. We're going to be perfectly fine. We just don't have that guy. I agree. There's no continuity whatsoever. And I think it could have been avoidable in a lot of ways, but in other ways, what do you do with all these injuries? And I just hope that the bug gets out early as opposed to late. It's just
definitely. That's the silver lining, is like, hopefully we got over that. And it might take a couple games and a couple weeks of this practices in the first couple weeks of the season to kind of get those guys comfortable with each other. But I feel like we can afford that. I feel like that's the best thing about the Ravens rushing attack, is that we can afford the passing game to kind of evolve over time because we can always lean on that rushing attack.
Yeah, let's talk about the rushing attack real quick because we have another injury on offense that obviously everybody's been talking about. How big of a loss is J.K. Dobbins in this offense? My answer is massive.
Yeah, pretty huge. Yeah, pretty huge. We were expecting him to be doing big things, especially as he's been talking about focusing on his pass catching on the off season. So it's been really nice there because Gus doesn't. I mean, Gus Bus he had 700 yards last year and like 130 touches, and he didn't have that many catches from what I can remember. But we really need that pass catcher and running back area, and I feel like J.K. Dobbins was going to be the one to play that for us, and without him, it's kind of tough. So it's the next man up mentality. So I mean, we got Tyson Williams. So it is what it is. It sucks. ACL out for the season, but it's going to be next man up. You got Gus Bus, and I think he's going to tear it up for us.
Oh, I'm so excited. Gus Edwards as a starting back is going to be an awesome look. I've always liked Gus Edwards. He's been so reliable for so many years.
Yeah, man.
Definitely.
First 2 years, 130 touches, 140 last year. 700 plus yards every single year. So he had 6 touchdowns last year.
And he's not the premier back. That 700 yards is, you're not getting the ball every single snap. You're not the first guy to get it. And your quarterback runs. Yeah, your quarterback's running for 1,000 yards for the last 2 seasons. I mean, we're still the number one rushing offense, and I honestly don't expect that to change. And we signed Gus is a good running back, and we signed him for 2 years for $10 million. So I mean, we got him cheap. Right. And then this Tyson Williams kid, I like a lot too. Chad, I want to get your thoughts on Tyson Williams. So here we go. I've got preseason week 1. They play against a pretty sloppy New Orleans team who I don't think they have any idea what's going on at quarterback. They named Jameis Winston the starter, but I just don't see Taysom Hill sticking around for that too much longer. So we've got 10 carries, 41 yards, 18 yards was his longest run, no TDs. Right? So, okay, 4.1 yards a game. I'm liking that from a third-string running back. Can it be consistent? Week 2, 10 carries, 47 yards with a 20-yard touchdown run. Okay. Week 3, they limit his touches. He only gets 4 carries. So you would think that there's this huge drop-off in yards. No. 42 yards, 22 yards was the longest carry that he had. So this is a guy who's averaging around, 4.3 yards per play in the preseason. And with long touchdown runs, a good right cut, if you're John Harbaugh, right now I'm seeing for their depth chart, Gus Edwards is 1, Justice Hill is 2, and Tyson Williams is coming in at the 3rd spot. Do you think that you could move Tyson Williams up to that second back and keep Justice Hill in the same role that he's been playing in the Ravens offense? Or do you think it's smart to start the guy who's been in the system for 3 years, knows which way he's got to go for a running quarterback, and let Tyson Williams kind of learn things in the 3rd spot?
Yeah, so I'd say that Tyson Williams is the biggest question mark in our backfield right now.
Yeah.
We saw him a little bit during the preseason, and he had some decent yards per carry. Yeah, and that game against Carolina, he had a really nice touchdown run. But I'd say you can't really, as a fan, not privy to training camp practices. You can't really pull too much from that, other than the fact that he looks like a hard runner, but he's playing against second team, 3-team defenses during the preseason.
I know it's so hard doing a preseason analysis on anybody because how do you know that person is going to be great against ones, and B, how do you know that person's even going to be on your team in a week or two? I know week 1 is starting up here in Vegas on next Monday. We are going to be there. I'm excited for that. We're not going to be at the game per se, but we are going to be there on scene. How do you, I guess it's so hard because, I guess the answer is you go with Justice Hill because he's been in the system for so long.
Yeah.
I don't know how much does that matter if you don't get that many reps though.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to say. I would say that's where losing JK kind of has us up in the air right now. Is because they, like Brad was saying earlier, they were really going to implement JK in the passing game.
Yeah,
and he was really working on his passing work. So with him gone, obviously Gus can't fill that role because he's a north-south runner. And then Justice Hill, he is that kind of like scat back, little quick. I mean, he has caught balls in previous years, but I don't know how good he is at it yet. And then Tyson Williams, he looked really good, and there's a lot of hype with him, but I still don't. I mean, I don't know where you can pull from to be like really confident, knowing like what his skill set is in the passing game. So, I mean, just based off knowledge of the three backs, I would have to say Justice Hill would be like that. They would try to use Justice Hill in that passing game that they were trying to do with JK.
Yeah.
Unless Tyson Williams is like, I mean, like I said, we're not privy to training camp practices, so he could be catching balls left and right at practice as well. But I just haven't heard anything from the beat writers or the media guys about that. Right. But they are really looking. I mean, everybody seems pretty excited about Tyson as a runner, though. So that's it. I mean, it could go either way. Like Tyson could be, it could be Gus and Tyson 1A, 1B type thing, and then Justice Hill like third down passing scat back type guy. So I'm excited to see it because that's the one thing about running backs is like when it comes to a running back injury, and I'm not that devastated about it, because the next man up in the running back, like you see that every year where a big name running back goes down, but the next running back is like one of the easiest positions to refill, in my opinion.
Right.
That's why
last year with Christian McCaffrey, right? I mean, he went out, and their backup Davis, I mean, he went off last year. I think he ran for 1,000 yards down there in Carolina.
He was close. Oh yeah, he must. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't have 1,000-yard all-purpose. I don't know if he rushed for 1,000, but
not yet. Not all-purpose. I think he rushed about 600 yards last year.
Yeah, he was close, but yeah, like I'm saying, I'm excited about Tyson Williams, and I'm not too worried. I just feel bad for JK, and because I know he was working hard, and that wrinkle of the offense that we haven't seen yet with the running backs catching a lot of balls. I think they really want to implement that this year, and that really does put a damper on that. So I'm hoping Justice Hill and Tyson Williams can fill that role.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
If I could jump in on that real quick.
Yeah, go ahead,
and my thoughts, honestly, I'm going with Tyson Williams. Yeah, I mean, Justice Hill, he's been there for a while, and he hasn't really showed anything to me as a fan, and statistically really hasn't showed anything to me either. But one thing that we know when it comes down to the Ravens is the two things they know how to do offensively is pick running backs and pick tight ends.
Yep.
So if they are going to pass up on another running back, so you had I believe it was Nate McCrary, and he had almost identical stats to Tyson this preseason. Mm-hmm. Waived him. He got picked up by the Broncos and ended up keeping Tyson Williams.
I know there are a lot of guys. I was looking into the game. It's funny you say that, Brad. Like I was looking in and I was like, the third preseason game, I think Nate McCrary went off. He had like 85 rushing yards. And I was like, whoa, who's this? And every time I saw him on the screen, I was like, oh, wow, this McCrary kid is like, he's a really interesting, prospect for offense. And then what happens every preseason? A guy has a huge game and then somebody comes and takes him. It's like we did that with the kicker a couple of years ago. The fifth rounder that we got for him, we ended up flipping that for Calais Campbell.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't know. Like it's just the nature of the preseason beast, I guess.
Yeah. But we are also in looks for a backup through waivers. So we put in a waiver for Royce Freeman, and we're not missing that out. And I believe Carolina picked him up,
gotcha.
And that could have been a good addition for us.
Yeah.
So it's we are. You can definitely expect us to pick up somebody off the waivers before the first week, and if not, definitely into the second week. They are not 100% on our running back situation, so they are going to fill that spot. But when it comes down to it, I don't think they're just going to pick up somebody and throw them in front of Tyson. But I really, like I said, Justice Hill, I have him on a scratch. I don't even think he's that good of a backup for us.
Yeah, he's what we got. I think with Gus Edwards as a primary back and with Lamar running the ball the way that he does, I would love to see Tyson Williams in on some of these schemes and then have Justice Hill play sort of the same role that he did. But I don't know if you're Coach Harbaugh, do you do that to a guy who's been in your system for so long? I think there's a little politicking going on with that as well. Let's move on to the wide receivers because this is the big story in the offseason. This is what everybody's been talking about. This is the reason why Lamar Jackson gets so much crap for, not being accurate or this or that. The wide receivers in the Ravens room last year, they had a 7.2% drop rate, highest in the NFL. So we got to fix that. So we go out in the draft, we pick up Rashad Bateman in the first round, and then we pick up Tylen Wallace a little later in the third. Rashad Bateman's out. He's on injured reserve like we were talking about before. I guess my question here is this. With Rashad out for at least maybe the first couple of weeks, I know they're saying 4, but they also said that Carson Wentz was going to be out for 5 to 12 weeks, and he came back in a week after surgery. Like, I don't know, right? On the depth chart, they got Devin Duvernay replacing Rashad Bateman. How do we feel about that?
I would say I'm really looking for James Prochet and Sammy Watkins to step up in these first 3 weeks. Yeah. I didn't really see anything from Duvernay in preseason.
I know, isn't that weird?
I've heard a lot of hype about James Prochet, and the one training camp practice I went to, Sammy Watkins was catching everything. So I personally hedging my bets on James Prochet and Sammy Watkins really stepping up in this first 3 or 4 weeks as Bateman comes back from his groin injury.
The way they have it set up right now, they've got Sammy Watkins starting with Tylen Wallace as his second, and then James Prochet is behind Hollywood Brown, which I guess what are you going to do, right? I mean, you're backing up Hollywood Brown there, but so if you look at this receiving core, is there any guy that you could look at and you could say, all right, well, this is the 1,000-yard receiver that we need? I guess the obvious answer would be Marquise Brown, but I see major scheme problems with him. The big thing that teams did against the Ravens defensively once they got down the stretch, and I really think it was after the Patriots game, because Bill Belichick did it, so everyone should do it, right?
There you go, yeah.
They basically switched to man. They played man coverage on guys the entire game, and anytime that they played zone, it seemed like Marquise Brown would find a seam. So they were just like, all right, well, if that's what they're going to do, let's just play man coverage. Let's force Lamar Jackson to throw into tight windows. Let's let him run for however long he wants. It's going to happen anyway, so why bother stopping it? And let's really just, if we can't pick on the quarterback, let's pick on the wide receivers. I'm with you in the sense that I think Sammy Watkins, what is a good season for Sammy Watkins here? Is it he stays healthy, he gets 800 yards receiving, and the Ravens go on a deep playoff run? I love Sammy Watkins in this offense. I just don't know how he's going to perform. I have no idea.
Yeah. Well,
it's hard.
With all his injury history, I don't know if that's... And then to back him up, though, you've got the third rounder, Tylen Wallace, who I think is amazing. I love that kid. I want to see more of him, honestly. Yeah. They're not going to do it, but I'd love to see more of him in packages with the wide receivers. And I'd like to see Devin Duvernay get a shot. Because
definitely.
They always use him on these weird plays where, they hike the ball and they hand the ball off to him.
Mm-hmm. The little reverse sweeps and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that drives me crazy because I just don't think I think after a while, it's not original. It's something that really sticks out on tape, like a quarterback handing the ball off to a wide receiver. And it's always the same look. It's this drag that goes across and he just dishes. It's like, if you're a team and you see Devin Duvernay cutting to the left, it's like, all right, well, he's going to get the ball and it's going to be a run play. I would just like to see him go and get the ball downfield and use him as a pass catcher because I don't really see what we're doing with him.
Yeah, I mean,
he can do it. Amendola thing where he passes it for a touchdown over top of it. So you guys remember when he did that?
Yeah.
Why is that? Every time the Patriots play us, they always use some weird the wide receiver was a quarterback in college and he throws it. It drives me freaking crazy. I don't know why.
And then that same game they did the whole 3 lineman thing where they put the lineman out to the right or something and threw everybody off.
Right.
I think it was the same play where they had offset linemen or something, and then Amendola was off, and or was it Julian Edelman that threw the touchdown pass?
Yeah, I can't
remember. It was two Amendola.
Yeah, there you
go. Julian to Amendola. Yeah,
drives me crazy.
Yeah, Belichick always has to get into his hat of tricks against the Ravens in the playoffs.
Why can't he at the Baltimore though? Man, it's from Annapolis. I mean,
right? Yeah.
Give us a break.
It's a power move.
I guess.
But to get back to the Sammy Watkins, Sammy Watkins had his best statistical career when Greg Roman was his offense coordinator in Buffalo.
True.
Sure.
And he was
first 2 years actually. Yeah.
I think he was a 1,000-yard receiver his second year with Greg Roman.
Yeah,
so
900, 1,000.
They have that connection there is. I mean, I'm sure that's part of the reason why he decided to come with Baltimore. But so I don't think we need a 1,000-yard receiver necessarily. I think it's more of the efficiency. Yeah. We're not gonna be a top 10 team in passing statistics, but if we're like a top 15 in passing efficiency, I think that's what we're missing. Because when in these playoff games, when the defenses are all out stopping the run, we need to be more efficient with our passing game. And I think bringing in those 2 new wide receiver coaches, drafting Rashad Bateman, bringing in Sammy Watkins. I think that they basically revamped the wide receiver room with these new coaches and players. And like you said, all those drops last year kind of really screwed us in these big moments when we needed the passing game to help us once the rushing game was kind of being stopped. So I think the main thing is efficiency. And I think we took the steps to do it with the additions in the coaching room as well as the players. And I think nobody being able to play, like we talked about earlier, the Lamar and the receivers not be able to play, whether it was because of COVID and or all the injury issues this training camp, is really going to delay that. But I'm very optimistic that by maybe 4th or 5th week, we are really, they're a lot more comfortable with each other. So I'm really optimistic about what they did this offseason. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was a wake-up call for a lot of those guys in that wide receiver room, too. When you see, I mean, we normally double up on drafts anyway, and then going out and getting Sammy Watkins, getting Bateman and Wallace, it's like, all right, somebody is not going to make this roster. Who's it going to be? And I think that's where the James Prochet stuff comes in. He had an awesome preseason.
Yeah, he stepped up.
He did. So
last year they drafted Prochet and Duvernay, and then they doubled down again. They brought in Sammy Watkins. So Prochet was like, hey man, nothing's safe here. So I feel like that is a great outcome from this whole situation. I think Prochet, and Duvernay too. We haven't seen much from him this training camp yet, but he still has the option. The chance to kind of like step up and potentially be what the Ravens hope he could be with that, because he was drafted 2 rounds before Prochet, I believe.
Yes. I think you're right.
But so I'm very optimistic about it.
A lot of optimism in this podcast. I love it. There's a lot of optimism going on.
Ravens fan podcast, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but there is reason to. The issue was addressed. People
Exactly.
Everybody was saying that this was the major issue that we addressed it. So let's see what we can work with that. With tight ends and fullbacks real fast, Mark Andrews is going to be the starter, probably the number one receiver for Lamar again this year. I think we already kind of know that. Nick Boyle coming back. I think he's like huge. He's like a lunch pail kind of guy. I love Nick Boyle on our roster. I'm really excited for him to come back. And then you got Patrick Ricard out at fullback. So I'm not really going to go too much into this because I don't really think that there's I don't think there's going to be anything really new schematically with these guys. And I don't think they're going to use them differently in any way.
No, but I would just like to say Nick Boyle coming back is very huge for offense.
Huge.
Running game, especially.
He is the best blocking tight end in the game.
Yeah.
And he's a leader on that line as well. So
that's really going to lunch pail guy. He does all the stuff that he gets down and dirty on the tight end position, and you see it. You don't see it. I guess there are a lot of really good tight ends in this league, but whenever Nick Boyle makes a play, it always seems to be the right play at the right time, for like a 10 or 12 yard pickup. And I just think with just one tight end there, I guess, with Mark Andrews, you can't just do that with Mark Andrews alone. And Patrick Ricard is like, we don't know what he's an enigma, man. He's like he's a Swiss Army knife or something like.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, I love that guy, Project Pat.
He's awesome, man. He's another.
He can definitely catch when he need it. Yeah.
And then let's go into the line real fast. This is a relatively. There's some continuity here. There's Ronnie Staley. We were talking before we actually went on today. Ben Powers is going to start left guard. Bradley Bozeman at center. Kevin Zietler and Alejandro Villanueva, two new guys on the right side. Both of them are vets, and they're all gigantic. So, I mean, really, I look at their offensive line, and I'm just like, they are so much bigger than the guys that they're going against. It's like noticeable on the screen. It's like watching. I don't know if you guys watch college football, but like Wisconsin every year always has these big, like Midwest. Like hail bailing motherfuckers in there on the offensive line. It's crazy. The Ravens look exactly the same. Do we have any concerns about the offensive line this year? Is there anything that I know Ben Cleveland is out? We drafted him, and I was excited to see him in there.
I mean, I'm pretty excited about it, to tell you the truth. I mean, where I'm questioning is, to me, is really this left guard, like you said, Ben Cleveland. We were hoping he was going to be the one starting and then picking off as a rookie. But bringing in two vets, I mean, they got pretty good accolades. I mean, the one guy, he's familiar, Kevin. There was a Zealer from the Giants that we picked up.
Trade. Loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a 9-year vet. We're picking him up, and he's already played in the AFC North. I mean, he used to play for Brown, used to play for the Bengals, so he's used to those 2 games against some huge rivals. So I'm excited to see him, especially going against those other defenses with Pittsburgh and the Browns. I mean, anytime you play anybody in our division, it's their defense coming at us. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do, especially against his old team. Villanueva, he was a 2-time Pro Bowler.
Yep.
I mean, and he was last year he was ranked when it came to pass run. Run blocking. He was ranked 18th in the league last year.
Yeah.
Which to me, I mean, that's a big step up, especially if we're questioning who's going to be our running back, and we got 2 downhill runners right now. So, I mean, I'm pretty set on what we got, and then we get back Ronnie Stanley. I mean,
huge.
As long as he can stay healthy, I think we're going to be set. If anything with the size and these guys just being giants, you're just going to have Lamar Jackson take a couple steps back a little further so you can see up the line. But I think he'll be good. He's a 6-foot dude.
On Villanueva, real quick, if I was a quarterback and you told me that there was a guy that's playing right tackle that's 6'9" and used to be a former Army Ranger, I'd be pretty stoked about that.
Yeah.
That's just not only because of the physical stature, but just the influence that he's going to have on that line itself. I know, at Villanueva and Stanley anchoring your sides is just like dream come true. I've always been an Alejandro Villanueva fan, even in Pittsburgh, where I despise everything about that team. I always looked at him and I'm like, all right, that's a guy that I would love to have in my locker room. So I think that's going to help out a lot. I don't know. Hopefully everybody stays healthy, because that's really, we talk about Lamar and how important he is. In fact, we haven't really talked about him at all this podcast, because there's nothing really to say about Lamar Jackson. He needs to take a step forward in the passing game, but the offensive line is just as important. If we saw what happened when we lost Ronnie Staley, we moved Orlando Brown over to left tackle, and then he realized, oh yeah, I can play left tackle too. I want to get out of here because left tackle pays more than right. And it's just crucial that our offensive line stays together. It's crucial for any football team, but especially one that you're expecting to average 200 yards rushing per game like you did last year.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to. Otherwise, where does this team go from there? So that's what we've got for offense. We can talk about Lamar Jackson, but I really think that everybody's talked about Lamar Jackson. I don't really know what more we can add to this conversation. I think his wide receivers and his schemes are going to get better, because I think we addressed all of those issues in the offseason, and we saw some things in the preseason where maybe we have the talent at wide receiver to mix up some looks for Lamar. There's not really much to say. He's a former MVP. I'm riding with him. I think he's great. And this is a big year for him. I hope that he takes that next step throwing the football. But I also hope that his wide receivers understand that, someone's got to be a number one on this team. And number ones go up for the ball, and number ones challenge for the ball. And we have guys that I think are more capable of doing that this year than we did last year. And that's what we need. We need a guy to just go up and maybe turn an interception from Lamar into a 20-yard gain. And I think we will have the receiver room to do that. So you guys have any thoughts on Lamar Jackson before we switch over to defense?
I'd say we are at a huge advantage with a 24-year-old quarterback that has 3+ years of NFL experience.
And 3+ years of playoff experience.
Exactly. 3+ years of playoff experience. Because, you look at Joe Burrow, 25, Baker Mayfield, 26, 25. Like, we're in really good hands with this young guy, and he's a hell of a guy on and off the field. Very good kid. And I'm looking forward to his career. Looking forward.
Brad, what do you think?
Dude, there's not really much you have to say about him. His accolades speak for himself. He's an MVP in his first year starting. For God's sakes. Not last year, but the year before, the man, he had 36 touchdowns and 6 interceptions and sat 2 or 3 games because they weren't playing him in the end of the fourth. This is ridiculous. And he still rushed for 1,200 yards. Better. He was like the 5th leading rusher in the league. 7 touchdowns back-to-back years rushing, 1,000-yard rusher back-to-back years, and he's still throwing the touchdowns. People are talking about he can't throw, blah, 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 blah. This is haters are going to hate, and that's just the fact. It doesn't matter. But I see Lamar Jackson, 3,500 yards this year, easy. And, even with that said, I'm not surprised if he gets another 1,000 yards rushing, and I'm not upset if he does.
Yeah,
Let him do his thing, play the ball, and maybe he'll have another MVP freaking year. Let's do it.
The reason he's my second favorite Raven of all time is because of the way he makes me feel. So my favorite Raven of all time is Ed Reed. And the reason it's Ed Reed is because every time that guy got an interception, I would stand up. Because I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen, and anything could have happened, right?
Yep.
I feel exactly this. Lamar Jackson, and the best part about Lamar Jackson is I get to feel that feeling every single play.
Yep.
And there are not a lot of teams around the league who can say the same thing for their quarterback. And I think as a fan, that is something that man, even you're willing to ride or die for a guy just because of the way that he makes you feel, and that what you're seeing on the screen is so different from anything that you've seen before. You want him to be your starter, he's got to put up good stats. He's done that his entire career. I love watching him play in a way where it just seems like it's effortless for him. I said I wasn't going to, because I'm just going to end up gushing about Lamar Jackson, and there's certainly critiques that you have with him, but there's nothing really more to say. We got our guy, and if you're looking for Ravens hate on this podcast, you ain't getting it, pal. It's just
ain't getting it.
All right, so let's move on to defense real fast, because we got some big stories here for this too. We've got the Justin Houston signing. I kind of talked to you guys about this before I went on the pod. Ever since Ray Lewis retired, it's been sort of a revolving door for these linebackers, right? And I think we're so desperate to build a pass rush, because that's the thing that really stood out to me with Raven games too. I mean, our secondary is absolutely amazing. Everybody knows that. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But the line, every time it seemed like they snapped off, the quarterbacks just did not look under pressure at all. There just wasn't that. And I don't really blame anybody for it. I mean, you had at the time, Patrick Queen is a rookie. He's trying to figure out the speed of the NFL. Picked it up pretty quickly too, I might add. And then there were a bunch of new guys on the defensive side of the ball, like Justin Madubuike. Calais Campbell was new. We didn't know how that was going to work out. Derek Wolfe was new. We were just trying to figure out how to generate a pass rush. Do you think that with the additions we've made this year, we can improve a little bit on that area? I love the Justin Houston signing if it's for a year and he can give us just any sort of pressure on the quarterback. Because if that quarterback makes a mistake, our secondary is going to gobble up balls this year, just like they've been doing for the past few years. So I just want to get your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'd say that the defensive line is kind of like where I'm most worried about our team. Just for the points you pointed out from last year, our pass rush was pretty much non-existent.
Yeah.
Our defensive back safeties, the skill that they have really covers up some of that. But I feel like the Justin Houston signing was a necessity. We needed that veteran presence in there, especially with Judon leaving. We just needed the bodies, to be honest, because you got the rookie Oweh who looks fast as shit. I saw him at the practice when we did the stadium practice, and he is fast. They have him as a gunner on kickoffs.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Dude, he is athletic. Like, he's crazy athletic, but he's really raw. I mean, so we have him, and we have McPhee, who is also an older guy. And then Ferguson which is one of the, I feel like he was a third round pick 3 or 4 years ago. He still hasn't really developed into anything. So the pass rush is a huge question mark in my eyes.
Still.
Houston still is. Houston was a definite necessity, but it still doesn't help me, relinquish those questions that I have. The defensive line, what's his name? I forget how to pronounce his name. We got from last year. Mbuke or
Justin Madubuike.
Yeah, he is going to be a good player, man.
Yeah, he had a fumble forced in one of those in the Saints game, the first preseason game. That I know it was in the first quarter and it was late, but it kind of flipped that game entirely because if you look at that game, it's so weird. It's like we kick a field goal, Saints score a touchdown, kick a field goal, Saints score another touchdown, we kick a field goal, and then we get a touchdown and we win the game. Like, we could have lost that game. I know it's the preseason, so don't take that too much to the bank, but if he's able to do that in the regular season, Justin Madubuike, I really like what I've seen from him in preseason. I kind of liked some of the schemes that they had for him last year. He always seemed to be in the mix whenever he was out there. I think he takes a step this year. And then
I agree.
the LJ Fort injury. Okay.
Yeah, I think that
It's a big loss, but with Malik Harrison and Patrick Queen, you could be looking at a linebacker tandem, a really young, really talented, offensive, athletic linebacker tandem. And we get to kind of see the future on that. And I'm interested to see that. I feel bad we lost LJ Fort, though. He's a reliable guy, and he's out for the season.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm not sure who. I'm not sure if they were going to let Malik start over him. I'm not sure. I don't know if you guys saw that or not. I can't remember who was the starters.
Right now they were in a base 3-4 defense. They've got Malik Harrison listed as the left inside linebacker.
Yeah, I meant like before LJ Ford got hurt.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. Oh, I got you.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the silver lining in the injury. I mean, LJ Ford, he's been a great pickup these last 3 years. But his interception touchdown run against Houston last year was a huge play. Like he's a great player for us. I hope he recovers quickly and he can help us out next year. But I think the silver lining is maybe Malik gets pushed into that starting role earlier than the coaches were wanting to, and that he really gets to develop pretty quick, you know. But yeah, I mean, I think our future is bright with those two young inside linebackers. Obviously, Patrick Queen, I mean,
stud.
That game against that one. There's I think it was against the Saints in the preseason game where he tracked down a screen for a tackle for a loss, and then the very next play he got a sack, and I was just like, this guy is a freaking beast.
Yeah, he's
he's also fast though.
Oh yeah. I mean, we got a lot of speed on that defense right now, and I'd say the inside linebacker spot is looking pretty bright.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Hey, Brad, I wanted to get your thoughts on the secondary real fast. You know who had a great preseason game at one point? Geno Stone had 2 interceptions when he was in. And I think, it was against New Orleans. So, like, what do you take from that? They're in the middle of a quarterback controversy. I still think they're in the middle of a quarterback controversy. I know they picked Jameis, but this is a big test year for him. And if they feel comfortable with Taysom going forward, that's, I think, what they're going to do, or they're going to get somebody else. First preseason game, New Orleans was kind of sloppy, but Geno Stone gets 2 picks. And he's a guy that I liked coming out of Iowa. And then you've got, of course, the starters like Chuck Clark, Marcus Peters, Jimmy Smith, Deshaun Elliott, Brandon Staley. Like, we're loaded at cornerback.
Yeah, I mean, it's like kind of talking about Lamar. I mean, like, it's like you don't even have to say much. I mean, it's cool. I'm all about Stone getting those interceptions. We need another ball hawk. We haven't had really a ball hawk getting picks at safety since Edry left. I mean, that's kind of when it comes. I mean, our safeties are awesome. Yeah. But when it comes down to having somebody like that, I mean, granted, it is Edry. There's not many people made like him besides like Palomalo. So, but I think it's gonna be he's gonna be great for us. But with Elliott and everything like that, I think we're fine. On the outside, it's locked down. Yeah. I mean, you got Marcus Peters. He let some people over his shot, but it's Marcus Peters.
He's a guy who he's going to try and get a pick. I mean, he's all about that. And he drives me crazy sometimes because there are plays where I'm like, dude, if you had just played that like any other cornerback, that probably wouldn't have been a long touchdown, or that probably wouldn't have been a big play. But then he gets an interception on Russell Wilson, and we see him running down the field 2 years ago, and I'm like, yes, this is great. Points gained on the defensive side of the ball, and that's what he brings. He drives me crazy sometimes. I love Marcus Peters, but gosh, he's frustrating because he's great. He's one of the best corner, but he plays in a way where it's so high risk, high reward. I'm like, golly, and it's kind of cool. I like that he talks shit. I like all of that, really. And then Marlon Humphrey obviously is just he's developed into a stud in this system.
He's such a big dude, and the way he strips that ball is what do you have? 5 forced fumbles. Well, he had more than that last year, forced fumbles, and then one of them was actually picked up. I think you guys talked about it. Picked up by Patrick Green and ran in for a touchdown. Like, I mean, it was his first touchdown of his career. I mean, this man, anytime the ball goes near Humphrey, I'm never worried.
No,
Never worried. Like, like if there's any questions when it comes to our defense, like Chad pointed out, is our front seven. When it comes to our secondary, I have no doubt that they're going to do what they need to do, and they're going to lock it down. We're probably one of the receivers are scared to come in and play us.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I think you've got a lot of matchups this year that are going to test that. You know, like I'm looking at this Green Bay game down later on in the schedule, and I'm thinking to myself, like, golly, like Marlon Humphrey versus Devontae Adams. Like I don't know. Odell Beckham Jr. is back. Pittsburgh is always a problem with wide receivers. I mean, there's just a lot of guys out there. Indianapolis with T.Y. Hilton. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for Kansas City, obviously. There's going to be a lot of opportunities to really like test that secondary, and I think they're up for the challenge. You know, they're in the AFC North where you've got, you know, besides the Bengals, and that may change. Who knows? Depends on how their draft pick goes this year. But you're looking at Cleveland's loaded at wide receiver, Pittsburgh's loaded at wide receiver, and you're playing 4 of those games a year, and 2 of them are going to be on the road. So you have to be good at corner in this league. Otherwise, I mean, you're not going to, and especially in the AFC North where it's going to get cold and the ball is going to be, people are going to be a little less eager to get into collisions with everybody. I think on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. So, yeah, I mean, so the pass rush is the big thing. Pass rush. You got to see it. Do we have to see that week 1, or are you willing to give time for that to develop?
I mean, I think with Houston being, Houston is a vet, man. I think we should see that happening immediately. And I mean, Houston's been doing it for 10 years, right? He's close to a decade in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does not need, I don't think he needs any, I think he's ready to go.
What about you? I heard you were saying it's going to take some time.
I think it is. To me, it's like we lose Judon, we put in, and then we got Justin Houston, and it's like when it comes to the sacks, which is what we need to get the pressure on the quarterback. He's filling in that spot. I mean, he got the last couple of years, just as we're throwing stats, he had 8 last year sacks, 11 before, 9 before, and it's pretty much the same thing that's following Judon. Judon had pretty much the same exact thing.
Right.
And so when it comes down to getting the sacks, I think, he fits in perfectly, but it's who's coming off the other side to get the other pressure.
And what's who's the answer for that? Like Chad, I don't know. It seems like in the linebacker spot, I would love it if Justin Houston exploded and we got pressure on these quarterbacks a little bit more. I'm just wondering if we're either super young or super old on this depth chart. Like Calais Campbell is older. Justin Houston, while an older player, first year in a system, if they're just expecting him to just blitz the quarterback the whole time, did we do enough for what we gave up this year? I'm just not sure. I don't know. It's a huge question mark, and the Justin Houston signing, it makes me feel a little bit better about it. But I just feel like it's still a revolving door for a lot of these linebackers that come into this team. When it just seems like we're desperate to try and generate a pass rush where we're willing to get whoever. And Justin Houston's the best linebacker that was available at the time. I just wonder if are we really that much better off with Justin Houston over Matt Judon, a guy we traded away? I don't know. I don't know.
Well, we didn't trade him away. It was a free agent signing.
Right. Yeah, true. Yeah. It is a free agent signing. Yeah, that's correct.
So it wasn't our choice, but I think where we lose, I think Judon was, I think the loss of Judon is less on the pass rush, but more of his coverage was pretty good from his position. He when he dropped into coverage, I mean, for zone and whatnot, I think that's where we're going to miss him the most.
Yeah.
Because because I don't know how much Houston is dropping into coverage type of guy. I just know him as a
sack getter.
Pin his ears back and get after the quarterback type person. So, I mean, it's a wait and see type of thing. I mean, I think that's our biggest question mark is the pass rush. But I mean, it's a big deal. But considering that, hey man, I mean, even though our pass rush is kind of question mark, our defensive line is still pretty solid when it comes to run stopping and stuff. I mean, we held Henry to 30 yards in that playoff game or something, less than 50 yards.
Oh yeah,
without a great pass rush. So
right, true.
It's a necessity in this league to have great pass rush because that really helps your DBs. But I mean, we'll see how it turns. I wouldn't be surprised if we trade a little into the season if we see that what we have isn't really working out. If Owe doesn't really, I mean, he takes a little bit longer time to get used to it. I wouldn't be surprised if we make a mid-season trade to get some more pass rush, but we'll see. Because I know we were in. I'm pretty sure we looked at Clowney in the off season. Like we did our due diligence in the free agency.
And like I said, I think Justin Houston was the number one guy. Like the one guy that was left, Justin Houston's there.
Oh yeah, he was the best available in training camp. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go to special teams real quick, and I really just have one question. One question and one question only. Would you pay Justin Tucker $20 million a year to kick the football?
I pay him more.
You pay him more, right? So, okay.
He's the best ever, dude. He's the best ever doing the job. So, I mean,
he's a great weapon to have, man. When you can be like, hey, just get the ball to the 45-yard line, and you really have a chance at hitting a 55-yarder plus. Justin Tucker gives you that chance.
I have a friend. He's a Bears fan, right? And they had like the double doink a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Every time he would play, like Justin, he would ask me like, I mean, you guys got Justin Tucker, so you're good, right? I'm like, we are more than good. I have literally, I told him, I was like, I don't think you realize like what it's like to live with a team that has the kicking position completely locked down.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
it's a luxury for sure.
Yeah, and he's going to be there the rest of his career. There's no way they're going to let him go. People were asking me like, oh, well, would you pay Justin Tucker, more money than any other kicker in NFL history? I was like, yeah, I would pay him probably like 25 to 30 mil a year. If I could keep him and I could keep the productivity, because I know I'm getting 3 points. I know I'm getting a point every game or every time that he's getting up there. And yeah, he'll miss some, but like I'm willing to give him a pass because he's got the highest completion percentage kicking in NFL history. I'm willing to give him a pass if he misses one every once in a while.
Yeah.
I'd pay him $30 million a year.
Yeah.
What's the number, Chad? Brad, you said more, but Chad, what's the number?
We already made him the highest paid.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, if you were going to pay him, would you pay him an astronomical amount of money just to stay? Obviously, the Ravens are cap strapped, so this would never happen. But like, you could make an argument that this guy is worth that much money.
How much money again?
I said if you paid him 25 to 30 mil, like
for how long?
Oh, I don't know. He's in his 30s right now. I mean, you could pay him. For Justin Tucker, I would just pay him $30 million a year, renew his contract every year, and if he wanted more, like we can figure something out. I think he's that important. I'm not kidding. I know that's like a hot take or whatever, but when you're guaranteed to get 3 points on 93% of your kicks, and you never have to worry. You never have to worry about him completely boffing. Even his misses are so close. It's like, I'd be willing to pay that guy a lot of money just to stick around and kick balls.
Well, I mean, I think that's a little I mean, what can someone pull it up real quick? What is his salary right now?
His salary right now, let's see.
Yeah, what is he? He's already the highest paid kicker. Let's see.
I mean, while looking for his salary, I'll tell you this right now. He's the second leading scorer for the Ravens, only behind obviously Matt Silver.
So the current contract, 4 years, $20 million. So he's basically making $5 million a year.
$5 million.
Exactly. And you're talking about added 15 extra mil a year.
It's a hot take, man. Yes. Yeah, and here's why. If you know that a guy is that, I know he's the most expensive kicker in the league. I know. I want to lock him up.
He's already locked up.
No, yeah, but I want it to be lock, stocked, and loaded, dude. Pay the guy. Make sure that he's got a nice, comfy house in Baltimore. I really think he's that important. I think he's a guy who there are so many teams that get fucked over because they don't have a kicker. And he's 31 years old. Okay, let's say like a 5-year deal, $15 million. Let's say 20, 30 is too extra. That's how I feel about the guy. But if we're going to be more realistic, let's say I would, if he came to me and suggested that, I'd move players around to keep him.
You're wild.
You really think so?
If we're talking legitimately, I would not. I'd pay him at most. He's already, like you're saying, he's already the highest paid ever kicker. I would definitely pay him, if we're talking realistically, probably at tops $8 million.
Yeah, $8 million a year. And that's if we had to.
See, this is where the real controversy comes in. All right, like what are we going to pay our kicker? I want to pay him whatever. I would pay him $30 million a year. I would do it. I don't even care. I would keep him around.
We would lose Lamar Jackson.
I know.
We
get 3 points, darn it. No, hey, that's another thing. Can we talk about this real quick? The Lamar Jackson contract.
Go ahead, yeah.
What does that look like?
Hey, the man.
Okay, yeah. So I'm with you. How long? What's the length of time?
I think he's going to lock him down with it. I think he's going to be smart and, do like a short, kind of like what Josh Allen did. I forget what Josh Allen did, but he's going to do a shorter. He's not going to do like a 10-year thing like Patrick Mahomes did.
No, there's no reason to do that.
I think he's going to do. I would be surprised if it's more than like 5 years or 4 years.
So yeah, Josh Allen signed an extension for 6 years and $258, which is unbelievable money. So that's $40,000 easy a year. So
I think he uses that as
$40 million. Sorry, I'm not talking about my salary. I don't see us taking. I think it would behoove us just to go ahead and just pay the man, get him on a 4-year contract, pay him 40, 45 a year, and just say it's done with. The man's won us an MVP. He's gone to the playoffs every single season. Even when he wasn't playing, his rookie year, he won 6 games. I mean, yeah, he lost in the playoffs. The playoffs is where he's getting hurt, but he has gone to the playoffs and taken us to the playoffs every single year. So, and without him, that wouldn't happen. So,
he's still 24 years old.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would even stretch that out a little bit. I'd probably give him like a 6 or 7 year deal. Probably 6. But, I think he's a $40 billion quarterback. What else do you need to see? I just, I don't want to, he gets talked about so much, but his contract is a big thing because this is going to push the market up. I mean, the Patrick Mahomes contract is such an outlier. I don't think you can't really say that contract is like the trend for quarterbacks into the future. I think it looks more like a Josh Allen contract. But his contract is going to be one of those things that, okay, well, if Josh Allen's $40 million, Patrick Mahomes is $40 million, Lamar Jackson is $40 million, more quarterbacks are going to start asking for $40 million salaries. I think if you let's say Trevor Lawrence just explodes and goes off, or Justin Fields explodes and goes off. I know they're on rookie deals, but 4 or 5 years down the line, who knows what those contracts could look like, especially when guys are getting paid buku bucks to play the position.
Yeah, it's only gonna go up unless we have another pandemic.
Yeah, that's
He
a
might,
big indicator, right? Okay, so I think do we have anything else you want to talk about? I think we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say sleeper. I think my big sleeper. I'm just going to say sleeper. Josh Oliver, tight end that we drafted. We traded with Jacksonville in the offseason. He looks good, man.
Yes, he does look good. I like a lot of and I think maybe he'll have a decent role in this offense. I mean, Mark Andrews and who's the backup on the depth chart behind? I think who is it?
He's probably going to be third behind Andrews and Boyle. But we know Boyle is more of a blocking tight end, so I think, I don't know how good he is at blocking, talking about Oliver, but the practice I went to, he was catching passes left and right. Yeah, and then that last preseason game, I think he showed up. I don't know if it was the last preseason game or the preseason game against Carolina, but
last preseason, I think he had 2 catches for like 19 yards or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big pickup for us.
You have any sleepers, Brad? Anybody you think is going to really stand out this year?
Besides Tyson Williams, I think he's going to really show up. I think we're honestly going to have another duo like we did last year. I really don't think. I mean, it sucks. I love JK, and I wanted to see him do good again this year. But I don't think we have an issue. I think he's going to get at least 500 yards, maybe 600 yards this year, with over 100 touches. So I'm shooting big for him, but also Oliver. He does look good, and he's a big body. And another, like I touched on earlier, and we can all agree on one thing that we do not do wrong is pick up tight ends.
Right.
I mean, you look at the top tight ends right now in the league, and 2 of them were on our team at one point. Baller over there in Vegas, he was our teammate at one point, and the dude is a monster. He got Hayden Hurst, and he goes down to Atlanta, and he tears it up for Atlanta. We don't do wrong with tight end, so I do see 6'5", 250 pounds. The man is going to be a monster when it's his turn to play.
Yeah, 6'5", 249 pounds. Golly.
He's a big dude.
God,
and I'm not saying that Mark Andrews is he's gonna take over Mark Andrews by any means.
No, right.
I'm saying he's gonna be a great compliment to Mark Andrews. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, we always
Mark Andrews is Lamar's number 1 target, no matter what. So
yeah,
I'm just saying Oliver's gonna be
with this because I like Oliver too, and I think that you're right. We don't really miss on tight ends, right? It just seems to be a position that historically the Ravens have always had a lot of success in. Guys, I'm real high on Tylen Wallace. I think depending on how they use him and how many times, I don't want it to be like a Devin Duvernay situation last year where I watched this film and I was like, hey, Devin Duvernay, that's really interesting. And I would see him out in the mix and I'm like, oh, maybe they should play that guy more. I think Tylen Wallace is in that boat. The stuff that I've seen from him from Oklahoma State, he really fell in the draft. I mean, everybody was really high on this guy, and he ended up dropping to us really, really, really late, I think. He's got a lot of competition there. I mean, Brown, Watkins, you've got Andrews is going to be, if that's your, and I don't even think that's the read order, right? Like for Lamar Jackson, it's probably Andrews first, then Brown, then Watkins. By the time he gets to that 4th read and he's looking for and then there's not even Rashad Bateman. I mean, we haven't even considered him once he gets in the mix, but I would love to see Tylen Wallace get some decent play time and just see he's great when it comes to contested catches, which is something the Ravens need desperately. I would just really like to see him just go deep and just see, throw him the ball every once in a while and see what happens. I know he's a rookie, but that guy, it's enough for me to look at him and where we picked him in the draft and say, okay, this guy could contribute immediately. It's weird that all 3 of our picks were on offense. We have any defensive guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
Yeah, we got Stevens, the converted running back to safety. He's gonna be a big role. I think we drafted him in the 3rd round. He looked really good. He was all over the place in preseason. Number 21.
Justin Madubuike too. I think this is going to be a big year for him.
Yeah, he was drafted 2 years ago, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, it's the time. It's time for him. You got the first year under your belt, you know?
Yep.
So
exactly.
Brad, you got anybody on defense?
I don't have anybody on defense, but there was one receiver that I didn't talk about, or none of us really talked about, was Benjamin Victor, Ohio State receiver we have. And granted, it's tough just to say something strictly from last game because Huntley was dropping dimes. I mean, you could have had anybody out there that were going to catch his ball.
Yeah, it was crazy.
But the man went, I think it was like 5 for 5. I don't know, I think it was like 80 something yards and the touchdown. But he's 6'5". We signed him for a practice squad. So if anything does end up happening where our receivers don't fit in the mesh, I mean, we have that man to go to, and he is huge.
Yeah.
6'5", 200 pounds, and the man can catch. So
yeah, he jumps out on the screen as being like the corners that go and try and tackle him. I noticed it's just it looks like they're trying to tackle an oak tree. Honestly, like it's ridiculous.
He's ginormous, and anybody that comes to the league, they always gain some kind of weight. So the sky's the limit. But once that guy can get his footing and really run his routes right and get into the speed of the NFL, man, he's gonna be a force to reckon with.
Chad,
did he make the practice squad? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he's on the practice squad.
He's on the practice squad. Okay.
Yeah, he's on the practice squad. That's
I wasn't sure if he was going to
practice squad like 5 days ago.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if he was going to make it clear through waivers because how good of a game he had.
Right.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
And then here's another pick on defense that's kind of interesting. A guy that maybe could take a step in the right direction, right? Like Anthony Averett. I like Anthony Averett. I saw enough from him last year where I'm like, oh man, that's a guy. Like if Marlon Humphrey does go down, we've got a guy there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he's necessarily a breakout player, but I cannot stress enough to anybody like who knows anything about football. Like this secondary is just, it's ridiculous. It's one of the better secondaries I've looked at in a while, to be honest with you. And I don't know whether I'm viewing that through like a fan lens or whatever, but anytime you got Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey as your corners, and then, I like Anthony Averett. And I like Geno Stone. Tavon Young is good. Joker's good. Chuck Clark. It's everywhere. I think this defense is going to be really good this year. Really, really good this year. I think they're probably going to be, I don't know, top 4, top 3 defense in the league. Secondary, excuse me. Yeah, I think that's going to be it.
Yeah, anytime you can trade away your 5th round pick in this year's draft to a rival,
and people are still upset.
You have a great defensive back room when you can trade away Sean Wade. So
absolutely.
We are set at defensive back.
All right, boys. I think we've just about covered everything. This is great. We're
great talking with you guys.
Yeah, for our first podcast. This has been really wonderful. Brad, Chad, have a wonderful Labor Day weekend. And
yes, sir.
Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, we're excited, man. Ravens football, baby, next Monday night.
Yep, we're gonna be. Me and Chad are gonna be in Vegas. I'm gonna be a nerd, and I'm gonna probably have like a notebook with me. I'm just gonna be writing down crazy stuff. And I guess we're going to do probably right after that, we'll have a podcast out for post game and thoughts on week 1. So stay tuned for that. And we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good Labor Day weekend.
Go Ravens.
Go Ravens.
Talk to you later, boys.